Well, I'd like to start off on a positive note. My granddaughter started substituting this year in the school system, and she just had a wonderful experience with the staff, and especially with middle school students. I think I'd recommend that you do something about second grade or so. Look at her. In any case, this is one in a series of anecdotes about what our graduates or high school students do not know about American history. And when public education got underway after the Revolution as a new ideal, free public education, one of the purposes was to instill a sense of a knowledge of their country and its institutions. But I don't know the reason why exactly. I can come up with theories, but our high school students, the ones I talk to that work at different places, and I have a chance to ask them a trivia question, what happened in July 4th, or what happened in 1776, you get some interesting answers, like the one that thought I was in the Revolutionary War myself. And that was the reason I might know about it. I also had one say, when I asked him, well, what happened in 1776? And I got the usual, I don't know answer. But this one says, I don't know because I took United States history. So I guess that's not funny, is it? And I don't think it is either, because it doesn't bode well for the future of our country. If we can get them to do reading and writing and arithmetic extremely well, which we haven't got to yet, and they don't care about our country, what is it all about? So just something to think about. That's all I have to say about that, as Forrest Gump would say. Thank you.
Our kids who are excelling and for some reason are not able to attend daily school or have chosen not to attend. Many school systems in our neighborhood in Northeast Indiana have an online system. Most of them use Edmodem, which is a fully functioning system. The high school basically doesn't talk to the kids when they use that system. So we've chosen to go with IU Online. Our students would apply for that system. They would have to talk with a guidance counselor annually to make sure that they were both on pace and that they were ready for their college and career pathways. There are a number of AP courses in the package that allows for our best and brightest kids who are choosing not to walk into the school for whatever reason to achieve at a high level. So this is very different than the Apex courses that we offer for credit recovery. I believe the board has gotten the packet over the last several months. I will entertain any questions that you might have and do my best to answer them. That is correct. Correct, and/or a student that for whatever reason has chosen not to attend the physical building or unable to physically.
are having success academically, but we prefer them to have it with us in a different method, and that method would be the IU Online Academy or school. So I want to be clear with our public and our board. We want a lot of buckets. This is one that we also need here. That's my recommendation, and I appreciate Ms. Brown and all the work you did at the PAT and here and so on.
And if I could just add that our kids here are incredibly successful. I just received a report that Mr. Brimberry forwarded to me, and of 10 schools in our neighboring area, Huntington North earned 23% of the credits that came out of Ivy Tech, the dual credit situation. So if I could have whatever I wanted, some of these kids who are not here would spend a year in IU Online, and as they're working with our guidance counselors, they would see as they become juniors and seniors the benefit of coming here and earning dual credits, and they would be a full-time student in the building, would be my hope at some point. Might not work for every kid. We have kids who are at Riley Hospital. We have kids who have some other physical problems that it would keep them from walking in, but it would return those students to be Huntington North students. So at this moment, we believe Mrs. Herringding will be the primary person in the guidance department that will work with them and with IU. So she will both help them schedule. We will actually schedule here at Huntington North High School and then report that to IU Online. She will check with IU Online to make sure that they're making progress. A student that begins a course will need to finish that course within the semester, so they can't drag it on forever and a day, and that'll help us keep accountability with those students.
Financially, for transparency purposes, there is a cost. I know we talked about this in our work session. The cost is far less than the tuition that Huntington will receive for that student being enrolled with us. But there is a cost to it. In the past, and I won't quote every particular one, it was sometimes somewhere around 50%. So if $7,000 in my previous life was what a student would bring in to the corporation for being enrolled in any student, many of those courses for full-time students would be somewhere around half of that, depending on the program. And Val, you can certainly correct me. I'm going on past experience as well on this, but I would just tell you there is a cost, but there's also a benefit. In my opinion, the benefit is we want to control education for all, as many kids as we can in Huntington County, and I believe this is another avenue that will help kids.
They have a very high success rate, and they're very good to work with, both from the student's perspective and the school perspective. Thank you.
overwhelming success with the response that I get from these young people. I kind of wrote 2 quotes down that I tell just about any young person who will listen, which is you should drink poison just because you're thirsty. If this is a sort of a lesson, a very powerful thought for my opinion, that it's about delayed gratification and things like even as far as drugs, alcohol, yes, but even things like having an extra glass of pop when you've already had one, or screaming at somebody in traffic when you're in a traffic jam. It feels good at that time, but it's something that we only harms us in the future. The other one that I had written down here is that words only have the power that you give to them. This is a quote, a mantra that I have learned very late in life, and I wish I would have known when I was in middle school, that people's words don't have the ability to affect you unless you let them. So I try to draw from my life experience in regards to these, and I hope to use the relationships that I have with these kids and sort of carry that over to my instruction to the D.A.R.E program and hopefully be successful with kids in regards to maybe just approaching drugs and alcohol and kind of abstain from that. So, Mrs. Jarger, I think already gave you guys a letter that you guys have all read about the basis of the D.A.R.E program. I can't, once again, I can't thank you guys enough for your cooperation. If you choose to vote this in, then I promise you it will be successful. I promise you. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the proposed curriculum for D.A.R.E?
I would absolutely make that motion.
Is there, to approve?
Yes.
Is there a second? Any additional questions or comments? I would just say thank you for bringing this to us. Sorry. It's okay. It's clear that you have a passion for this, and I think that'll allow it to be successful, implemented. So if no one has anything else, we'll go ahead and vote on the motion to approve. Motion passes 6-0, and have fun in Columbus.
Thank you for being here, Officer Hamill and Officer Whitney. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, move on to D3, independent contractor agreements for fire and rescue.
Board, I know that you've had a chance to review this, as you know, and I believe most of you understand, but Mrs. Gray in particular understands. These are active full-time firefighters that will be teaching our course. So one day, at least out of every 3, they're going to be actively working, probably 24-hour shifts. So the contracts you have in front of you are for when the certified firefighters fill in, when our primary instructor is not here. So we would love to see board action for those contracts as we head into next school year.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion regarding the proposed agreements?
Make a motion that we approve the agreements as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All right, hearing none, we'll vote on the motion to approve. Motion passes 6-0. We'll now go to D4, 2024 extended school year.
Tonight, we have Special Education Director Beth Husband here to discuss our extended school year for the 2024. So thank you for being here, Beth. I just said a lot of nice things to your soon-to-be newest director.
Yeah. So I am requesting approval for extended school year. Every year, I think I read this to you, I have about 7 or 8 kids who need services over the summertime, just due to, I don't want them to lose any skills they've already learned, or they were close to learning a skill, we want to keep that momentum going. So I just have before you an outline of teachers who
right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion regarding the recommended extension of the school year.
I'll make a motion that we approve the extended school year as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we'll go ahead and vote on the motion to approve. Motion passes 6-0. We'll now go to E1, HCCSC and Viridian agreements regarding ceiling, lighting, PA, and piping.
And Board, please understand this is a very extensive process for the design. Mr. Thornsberry and his team. We do understand this is possibly the end of the 22 bond. You're not voting on the bids tonight. You're not voting on that. You're voting on the design process, and it is quite extensive for the areas listed on there. So I would ask for your approval for Viridian Architectural Design for ceiling, lighting, PA, and piping at Huntington North High School.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion regarding the proposed agreement with Viridian?
Motion to approve the proposed agreement with Viridian for high school ceiling, lighting, PA, and piping.
Is there a second? Second. Any questions, comments, or discussion?
Mr. Burnberry, this will come back before we bid it out and all that other stuff, so we'll see the work of this before we do anything further.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, not only will we see it, but there'll be open discussion of how the process of bidding is put forward. We have a budget that we have to stay under, and he'll fully explain that. So the process, you'll be able to see it all, and then we'll bring it back and say, okay, on the bid process, how do we want to do this, and in what method do we want to do this? So absolutely.
I'm assuming he's designing it, so if we have some alternates and deducts, if we need to get under a certain amount. Okay.
That
Just
is
making sure.
exactly how it's being designed. We hope that the 100% of the design would be able to be bid out with the alternates, and we'd all come in wonderful numbers. But you will see a process that all of it is designed for. If the numbers came in higher, you'll see the bid alternates later, where we can pick and choose what our budget would allow us to complete in what areas of the school. I will tell you, focus on classrooms and focus on hallways and focus on areas like that, but not as optimistic that 100% of it, but I've been wrong on a few other bids that have come in. They've come in under very competitive bids, and I've been pleased so far.
And Ms. Moore, this will come out of the bond that's taking care of the work at the high school, correct? This work and then where we actually pay for the work.
Correct,
Okay.
that is correct. Thank you.
And for those that were at the work session earlier this month, this is where we talked about just prioritizing restrooms, lighting, basically a lot of facility needs without the funds to get to all of those. I did have a question and discussed it with Mr. Brimberry right before the meeting. You know, for this plan, the way it's set up, we're approving architectural fees for Viridian, and I wish Terry was here to just provide a little more guidance. But basically, my understanding is we're paying for 100% of the architect fee to design all of the lighting changes, but we may not be able to do 100% of the work based upon what's left in the bond, correct?
That's correct. Optimistically, the design and the budget and the bids would all match up perfectly. If that were not the case, I think he said at the work session that he would have alternates that would allow us to pick and choose. Now, please understand, whether we complete 100% and the bids all come in under like we hope in our near future, or we pick a percentage of that, a very high percentage we hope, we will still have the ability to then decide at what time in the future to finish if this board chooses, based on different funding. And so I say that because I think we want to see the whole process, what that would look like, and then we'll see what it costs. And then with this board will have a lot of open discussion of how that looks and and when we want to do which parts and why. And so I think the work sessions have been very beneficial, and I think Matt's question is excellent. So yes, it is for design of 100%, and hopefully the bids match that, but it's not a positive that would occur. Great question.
Yeah, and I would also just say, we're in this situation slightly because of the delays in getting the equipment associated with the HVAC stuff.
No question. I saw several air handlers show up today. It was a big day for me at Huntington North, and so the supply chain has caused some issues in our past, but I will tell you, we're at the end of the 22 bond. We cannot do everything that this building certainly needs. We know that. We've discussed that openly. But I would tell you, the design being in place, I think, is a really good plan. Optimistically, I hope we can meet a whole bunch of the percentage, meaning a high percent, 80, 90%. I don't know that till we get to the bid process and what we prioritize. I know he's going to design it for your discussion with, again, focus on classrooms, then focus on hallways, then common areas. And if you remember in the work session, he said, we will also look at alternates for library, for field house, for different areas that if the budget doesn't meet, we can do it all, that then the board would prioritize what parts they want to do and what parts we maybe want to prioritize at a later time with different funding.
Any other questions? Yeah, I guess it's difficult to plan when we don't know what funds we'll have left until
The very last moment.
August of 2025, right? I mean, just looking at the administration of this particular part of the project, it has a date range of September of this year to December of next year. And so that was just my concern. We're going to pay for 100% of the design to the architectural firm, but we may only be able to do 20% of the project with the bond funds left.
I think from my discussions with Terry, it'll be a very high percentage. I think he's been very, very good at bringing us the bids. I don't know it till they come, but in reality, I also would tell the board, remember, this is the last big part of the 22 project. We discussed whether we wanted to do a multitude of things. The board said move forward with lighting, with piping, and with ceilings, and that's really where you're at right now. The design of that obviously would be critical for us to move forward with a future bid process. So I think we have to do the design process. I would not want you to only have 50% of the design for Huntington North High School. I think you'll want it all, and I think you'll want to see what parts we can pull out if the bids come in high. And I think that's really the discussions over the last several meetings where we're at right now. I'm excited that we are there, and I'm optimistic that the continued progress here is going to be great for our kids. Every time I walk in science right now, it looks like a challenging situation right now. I know by August, 5 classrooms are going to look top end. I know 5 more in November on a previous project. I feel the same way about the lighting, the ceiling, and those things. That climate culture and updating Huntington North is really important to our kids, and I'm excited for them and our district right now, to be honest with you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I think we had a first and a second, so we'll vote on the motion to approve the proposal with Viridian for ceiling, lighting, PA, and piping. All right, motion passes 6-0. We'll now go to E2, agreement with Viridian regarding Salamonie pool demo and HVAC replacement.
Board, again, this is from the 23 bond, and the design is what you're paying, or you're going to be trying to approve or not tonight as we move forward with HVAC design for later for bidding at Salamonie. Remember, it is the oldest system that you have in the district. It is the only steam one, I think Mr. Trout said through Terry a few times. And the other thing is, it mentions pool demo. The reason that's listed, there's been no decision on that. What we're asking for is, we got to know what we're going to do with that area. Number one, on the HVAC. Number two, if it's there, what would that look like if we decide to heat and cool? What happens if we tear off? What happens if we fill in? We need to know those answers for us to move forward with the design process. There has been absolutely no decision made by anybody administratively on that area, but we need to begin with the design process so we have options based on what budget might come forward. Again, this is from the 23 bond. I want to say that because we haven't spent a lot of time other than at work session talking about Salamonie. We definitely, Rich Hurdle said to please convey, this is a very, very important project to get moving forward on. He's concerned about that system. It is your oldest and most challenging. And, but no decision on the pool on which way we'd go one way or the other on that. But we do need to understand if we were to bid out what those options were in the future. It'll be a board decision on what we do with that.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion regarding this agreement with Viridian?
Make a motion to approve the work to go ahead and do the architectural design work for the Salamonie pool demo and the HVAC replacement.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion before we vote?
I was going to ask about the pool demo.
Sure.
And you fully explained that, so. thank
Yeah,
you
there's
for
just a
that.
lot of options on that, Carrie. Some places choose to tear off and they get a price on what that'd be. Some places choose to fill in and then they use it for storage. And then the question becomes, if you transform it to that, do you heat and cool it? And what type of storage it becomes? And I want the board, based on what budgets we have, to have all the options in front of you based on what you want to use that space or do you not want to use that space. And I think the design coming forward will shed some light on that. So I know that question down in the Warren area will be important, and I'm glad we got a chance to talk about it publicly tonight.
Thank you.
And Ms. Moore, just because I like calling on you tonight, this is the 23 bond.
Yes.
And that was written in such a way that it will cover this building, but actually if we had needs also in other buildings on that particular bond, it was written in such a way that we could actually use funds out of that bond for other things as well.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
It'll be interesting to see for those that were on the board the last time we looked at the pool. I think the one bid we got, and we rejected it, was $750,000 to tear down the pool area and haul away the debris from that, so.
And obviously, the HVAC is the primary on this, but that also includes an area if we decide, hey, we can't afford to do anything with it, then do you want to heat and cool it or not? Well, we really would like to right size, but what does that mean in the system that we're looking at? So Terry will help design all those options for you, and I'm excited to move forward because every time we get to hot parts of the year and then really cold parts, that particular building is worrisome. So we're ready to get designed and moving forward.
All right. Having heard nothing, anyone else have anything before we vote? All right, then we'll go ahead and vote on the motion to approve this agreement with Viridian. Motion passes 6-0. We'll now go to E3, quotes for the pre-K restroom at Andrews.
If you remember, we asked permission to go and quote what it would be to put in a restroom in the preschool classroom. I can tell you that program is doing very, very well. We're excited how the year ended. We already have AM and PM filled at Andrews for next year, so we're excited about that. And so Plumbing and Heating Incorporated, Bollinger's Service Supply in Warren, and Bollinger's Construction in Bluffton. Bollinger's and Warren said they could not do the job this summer, and Bollinger's Construction took our information but never put in a quote. So that's why you're seeing right now before you two quotes. We're asking, and the recommendation, Mr. Hurdle, is the acceptance of the quote from Manns Incorporated for this project.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion regarding the recommendation?
I'll make a motion that we accept the quote from Manns Incorporated.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll vote on the motion to accept the quote from Mans. Motion passes 6-0. We'll now move on to the consent agenda.
Board, I'll highlight a few of them. There's 15 items listed. Number one, we're excited, and Beth Husband will come up after the consent agenda vote to talk about our, hopefully our newest Assistant Director in Special Ed, Crystal Streeter. So thank you for being here tonight, Crystal, and we'll give Beth and you time after the vote to come up and talk and introduce yourselves. If you look at number 12, second reading tonight of employee handbooks is on there. 10 and 11, Mr. Peters, if you have any comments on Kinder Camp and Jumpstart in terms of those, just some generalities?
For Kinder Camp, we're just asking permission. We're excited about bringing back that program again. We have 17 teachers. So far, we're around 200 students that have signed up for that. We're excited. For Kinder Camp, we partner with United Way. We appreciate that partnership that we have with them. They'll be supplying a stipend for each one of those 17 teachers for being a part of that 2-week program for 4 hours. And then for Jumpstart, that's something new that we've not done before, and we're excited about that. That'll be a Jumpstart 2 weeks before school starts. 16 teachers have signed up for that. Currently, we're right now around 222 students. So excited for those two programs.
Thank you. Also, for your attention, Board, number 8, additional teacher, Mr. Draper, has been doing a great job. You'll see that for Huntington North. Their summer school finishes up this Friday, and so we want to make sure that you note that. Also, you see consulting agreement extension with Sager Consulting Services in HR, consulting agreement with Becky Smith, CFO, through December. And those are some of the highlights from there. So we don't have, of all the times I've been here, but the donations is usually a lengthy one. Summer it is not always, but we're way ahead of the game on donations at Huntington Schools. So very appreciative of the previous ones we received. And so I would present 1 through 15 for your approval.
All right, thanks, Mr. Brimberry. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the consent agenda, items F 1 through 15?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second? Before we vote, would anyone like to pull out a particular line item and vote on it separate from the rest?
I'd like to pull out number 12, and then I also have a question related to number 9. Is this just catching up for something that we missed? Because that was 2000.
Yeah, 23, I wouldn't say missed, but collected in terms of there's multiple sources involved in JRTC. I know you know that. I say that for our public only. But between what you deal with in terms of the military portion, our portion, and those, that has went back and forth a little bit. This is for, they were paid correctly during the year, but this is for our paperwork side, the final version. You'll get another one, Mrs. Gray, probably for next year in July, August? Somewhere through there for next year, but good catch, Ryan.
I should say it's a correction of past changes that we're
Yeah,
not
it's
catching
just
up on.
the accurate one to make sure it reflects all the parties involved in this one, but you are correct.
Thank you.
All right, would anyone else like to pull out a line item and vote on it separately? All right, any additional questions or comments before we vote? All right, then we'll vote on items F 1 through 15 minus item 12.
Items 1 through 15 minus 12.
First was Kevin, or Matt, second,
Yeah.
Kevin. All right, that motion passes 6-0. That leaves item F12, employee handbooks.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the employee guide and the transportation handbook, but that we table the administrative handbook and classified employee handbook until we can have further discussions amongst the board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any questions, comments, or discussion?
Just so everyone's aware of it, I posed some questions earlier about the administrative handbook, about a couple of administrative positions that I wanted some clarification on, and realizing it's a bad time with Mr. Trout not being here, so I'd really like to wait and have those discussions with him, and he's being here. And also, again, some additional questions about the classified employee handbook that I'd just like to have discussions with Mr. Trout, and I know it's not a great time and everyone's busy this summer, just additional conversations with us. But the other two, I'm ready to have approved, so.
All right, any other questions, comments, or discussion? All right, then we'll vote on the motion. Ryan, just so I'm clear, your motion is to approve 12, items 3 and 4. No, I'm sorry, items 2 and 4, and table 1 and 3.
That's correct.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and vote on that motion.
I would also like to thank those that were able to get me some of the information I asked while Mr. Trout was out. So I do want to appreciate and thank everyone for helping there.
You bet. Glad to do it, too. All right, motion passes 6-0. I know it says future meeting, but we'll make sure this is on the agenda for the next meeting in July. 22nd.
All right, we'll now move to G1, authorized representative certificate.
You want to?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It is my pleasure to introduce Crystal Streeter as the new Assistant Director for Special Ed. She has 13 years' experience, comes to us from East Allen. Prior to that, she worked in the Adams Wells Special Education Co-op as a behavior interventionist, where she had to work with 6 different districts, so she's used to being in lots of different places. I had an interviewing committee of 7 people, and we were all very impressed with her knowledge of special ed, her knowledge of curriculum, as well as academic and behavior interventions. And so I am pleased to have her on our team.
Crystal, come on up if you would. Crystal, welcome to Huntington family. It is a wonderful school corporation. We're honored to have you with us. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your background, and we won't put you on the spot too long tonight.
Well, first, I'd like to take a moment to thank the board and the rest of the administrative team. I'm so excited for this opportunity. I've heard nothing but wonderful things about the district, and I am just beyond excited to come alongside the rest of the administrative team and have this opportunity to be able to support students here in Huntington County. A little bit about me. Like I said, I've been in education for a little more than 13 years. I started as a paraprofessional, and I have worked my way all the way up in special education. I've grown up in this area. I'm a Homestead grad. I live in Bluffton. I've worked in Fort Wayne and East Allen and Adams and Wells County. I graduated from St. Francis with a double master's. I've done online all focused in education. The running joke in most of my areas is Chris doesn't know what she wants to do when she grows up. It's like going to school and getting degrees, because I think education is incredibly important. I believe very strongly that all students can succeed, and that education is incredibly important. And I just am so looking forward to working with this team and working for all students to succeed. And I feel like that's a driving force behind everybody within the school district. And I feel like this is going to be a great place to be, and I'm very excited to be here. So thank you again for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Crystal, and I could not reiterate this more. You just joined one of the best school corporations in the state. We're proud of that, and we are thrilled to have you with us. So if you don't mind, we're going to get a picture here. We're going to ask Mr. Butler to come up here, maybe Mr. Roth and I. Mr. Peters, you mind taking one with us?
Beth, get up here. Yep. Come on, Beth. Come on, Beth.
Come on.
All right, now we'll go to G1, Authorized Representative Certificate.
The certificate allows the HCCSC business office to have a backup authorized signature if the main point of contact is out of the office. Aligning with the district's internal controls, both the superintendent and CFO will have the authority to represent HCCSC as authorized representatives. Callback designees have been extended to both the accounts payable specialist and deputy treasurer, and the submitter of the affidavit remains unchanged. As always, I am able to answer questions and request that the board approve the certificate as presented.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion regarding the proposed certificate?
Motion to approve the authorized representative certificate with HCCSC and Huntington County-wide School Building Corporation as presented.
Is there a second?
That was her.
Noted that Mrs. Heim seconded a motion. Any questions or comments before we vote?
I have a question. So can you tell me about this process just a little bit as far as, just explain it to me. I kind of know, but I want to hear it just again.
Absolutely. So, in an effort to make sure that we have internal controls over the proper oversight of our bond proceeds, the payment affidavits are prepared by our treasurer, Alex Eckert, and even when she prepares them, all of the construction invoices are confirmed as job complete, and Mr. Burnberry with Viridian provides the A1A architectural sign-offs, and so she pulls together all of the documents for the affidavit. Then the affidavit comes to either myself or Mr. Trouch for review and confirmation as that second layer of authority and review, and then from there, once it is submitted to our, I don't want to give out too much information for security purposes, but it's provided to the financial institution that holds our bonds, and then from there, they, the third layer is the callback process. So they would reach out to one of the two designees in our business allowed to be released, that the work has been completed, and that the amounts that we're releasing are correct.
That's what I needed to know. Appreciate it.
Great question. I appreciate the opportunity to share that transparency.
Any other questions?
Does the board ever see those?
I am moving towards an opportunity for that to happen. I'm working with Mr. Trout, who's been out. We've had conversations about that and what that looks like and the frequency of those documents to be provided. So
Okay.
more information will be forthcoming as we wrap up those conversations.
But thank you for the current process.
And is this something that we've asked for, or has the financial institution?
Our financial institution is asking for it because currently we only have one signer in both of in two of the three departments. So in one of the department of the person of our treasurer who submits, that can only be one person. But the other two layers of review, having two people definitely supports us in operations to make sure that we're submitting our payments on a timely manner.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, hearing nothing further, we'll vote on the motion to approve the certificate. Motion passes 6-0. We'll go to G2, May 2024 financial reports.
So prepared for you this evening are the financial reports as they've been prepared to reflect the activity as of May of 2024. Lots of great information on here. I'm always available for by email or phone with questions. I'm happy to answer questions that might not come up tonight but at a later date. So in the education fund, we received $3,220,103 in revenues for the month. Our expenses were $2,662,408, leaving us an ending balance of $12,855,025. I will go on to say that there are encumbrances in the amount of $56,922. So once we pay all of our bills, leaves us with $12,798,103. On to debt service. So not much activity for debt service. I'll have more to report next month as we released our debt service payments last week for June. But for May, we received $28,140 in our CEBA and FIT taxes. And obviously no expenses. Again, like I said, I'll report back on those next month. We only have our debt service payments come out 2 times a year, and that's June and December.
When did we, or when will we receive our tax? Is that this?
We received our local tax levy dollars last week on the 20th.
Okay. So next month will show a lot of activity.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Ending balance for the debt service fund is $941,725. So having a little bit of a balance in here allows us to account for any shortfalls in levies that we might not receive. So we are allowed to have, it's a statutory amount and of a balance in here. So it is invested at a great rate. Operations fund for May 2024. For the month, we had $242,589 worth of revenue. The expenses totaled $1,682,703, leaving us an ending balance after we pay all of our bills was $610,440. Food service fund received $366,681 in revenue. The expenses for the month that was the bulk of it was the $222,000. That's actually food. So I know it says general supplies, but food falls in the is the curricular materials fund. We had $28,539 worth of collections from prior years on rentals. We had a $99.99 bill that we paid, so we rounded up, that's $100. So total fund balance after we paid all of our bills were $2,321,510. So again, this fund has a healthy balance where you have a lot of textbook adoptions that we're getting ready to renew. This balance will go down. So I appreciate the work of Jay and Tanya on his team to make sure that our curriculum adoption going into the next year did stay within budget and everything's moving forward as normal and expected. Moving over to the historical comparisons for the education funds, and he's doing a great job, A+. And again, this is a handy, helpful year-over-year comparison of where we have been, where we are, when it comes to revenues and expenses, and then ending fund balance is that third column. It reads left to right. So the first column is revenue, middle is expenses, far right is ending fund balances. So for the education fund for the month of May in 2024, revenues total $3,220,103. Year to date, we're at $16,096,440, which is just over $500,000 more than where we were at this point last year. Expenses, $2,664,366. Expenses to date, $16,969,526, which had more money in, so we've got more money coming out in tandem. So year over year, $21,722,319 is the appropriations that's unexpended at this point. So this is how much dollars that we have permission to spend. And our ending fund balance is $12,855,025.
We're right on schedule because usually by the end of June, we should be at about 50%, right?
Exactly. Even last year, we were at 54% at this time, so it's like I said, it's a healthy, handy little, year-over-year comparison to make sure that we are operating within the scope that we need to. For the operation fund, so operations, just to review real quick, used to be our capital projects, our transportation, and our bus replacement plan, and it's since consolidated into one fund. So that is for the month, we had $242,589 worth of revenue. Revenue for the year is $3,794,864. Which is slightly more than last year when it comes to revenue. Mainly at this time, let me caveat with that. So when it comes to expenses, we had $1,732,081. Expenses for the year totaled $6,542,204, which is slightly more, but then, like I said, we've got a little more revenue in tandem to match. So unexpended balance of net appropriation is $13,146,636, leaving an end cash balance of $1,595,895, which in comparison to the last 3-4 years looks pretty good.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion regarding the financial reports that were presented this evening?
Recommend we approve the May 2024 financial reports as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? Thank you, Valerie, for putting those together and presenting them to us this evening. I will go ahead and vote on the motion to approve. Motion passes 6-0. We'll move to G3, 2025 budget calendar.
So provided for you tonight is the 2025 budget preparation calendar. I almost want to start singing like it's the most wonderful time of year because there's just so many things going on, and who doesn't love a good spreadsheet full of numbers? So with all that to say, I'm going to highlight 3 or 4 pieces on this very itemized calendar. September 9th, budget workshop, where we review the 2025 education fund, operations fund, debt service fund, and our rainy day fund budget. We'll have, obviously, conversations before that. I'm getting ready to meet with Mr. Trout, and I've been meeting with Mrs. Smith in regards to our 2025 budget. Lots of things to get acclimated with. I've already got my spreadsheets rolling. I'm super excited. It's happening. But we'll dive into and go into all the specifics on the September 9th budget workshop meeting. And then if and when the board approves, then we'll get permission to advertise, and then we'll publish all that information out so that it's provided for public review and input. On the September 24th meeting, we'll come back in 2 weeks, and we'll have our official public hearing for the budgeted funds, which falls in line with the statutory requirements of advertising and holding meetings in tandem. And then at the October 14th board meeting will be our grand finale, where we'll review the budget, answer any questions, and then with the board's blessing, the adoption opportunity will happen at that time. And then on the 15th, I'll submit it all to Gateway, and we'll wait with bated breath for our 1782 budget order to members for 2025.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion regarding the proposed budget calendar for 2025?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2025 budget calendar as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion or comments before we vote?
Thanks for the calendar, and thanks for your passion for numbers.
All right, hearing nothing further, we'll vote on the motion to approve the budget calendar for next year. I know there's times we were approving those shortly before they were due, so this is a welcome change. All right, motion passes 6-0. We'll now go to G4, contract with Schindler Elevator Corporation.
Board, for your board action tonight, Rich Hurdle, Director of Maintenance, is recommending a 5-year contract from 24 through 29 with Schindler Elevator Corporation. He did reach out for 3 bids, and he feels this is in the best interest of our school corporation for a 5-year contract for our elevators. So board action is requested tonight.
All right, would anyone like to make a motion regarding the proposed contract with Schindler Elevator Corporation?
Motion to approve the 5-year contract with Schindler Elevator Corporation for 2024 through 2029.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll vote on the motion to approve this contract. Motion passes 6-0. We'll now go to H1, special policy updates. I would note this is a first reading.
Very good. Gary, in honor of the College World Series, we're rounding third right now and heading for home. Want to thank Mrs. Gray. She is the queen of Neola. We know that. And want to thank Mr. Peters, Mr. McLaughlin, Rachel Yarger, and I served on this as well. But as we look through the policies, first reading tonight, but there are some policies on there dealing with attendance, dealing with cell phones, dealing with some terminology, et cetera. But first reading tonight, and we will bring this back July 22nd for the second reading.
Any questions?
Oh, I got questions.
Oh, this is going to be an interesting.
Sorry, Gary, we were held up at third.
Don't worry. Couple short ones. So under the definition of personal communication devices, I think we should, under the section on definitions, which is policy PO0100, I think that's what it is. It's the definitions one. I think it would be smart to add smartwatches to the definitions of personal communication devices, just because I think they're more prevalent, and I know I've talked to students that love to have their smartwatch in the classroom and do things.
Ryan, good advice. We did talk about that. It falls under another generalized category on there as well, but we can specifically, if the board chooses, list it in there twice. We did talk about that with Mr. Peters. It's listed under some other general topic, but it would all be included. But we certainly have the right to specifically add that and can do that.
Okay. And then...
Good advice, by the way.
Yeah, and then just in general, from conversations I've heard around the state about these policies, are we going to go back and then try to also incorporate them into the student handbook, or are we going to maybe wait and do that next year? Because I've been told this is better to be done in the student handbook, or they should both mirror each other.
Yeah, we had that same discussion. We'll have that discussion on July 22nd. Please know that the board policy and the student handbook are very similar. We went through both in terms of what we're going to bring forward to you, so we did not want any discrepancies either. So excellent point.
And then I read this attendance policy a couple of times, but I know the new law specifically states elementary. And the way I was reading ours, I wasn't sure exactly, does it specifically talk about elementary and the things that we need to handle in elementary, or are we going to basically apply this to K-12?
I'm going to defer a little bit here from looking at that.
And these are questions that I'm bringing up. I don't need an answer tonight.
They're good questions, and I can bring it back to you if Jay or Cindy want to comment. I'm not going to speak for that whole group right now, but if we don't have an answer on that, whether that's elementary or not, we'll certainly bring it back to you on the second reading.
Because I know the law that was passed that I pointed out at the last meeting with Cindy was specifically for elementary attendance, and that's what they were specifically trying to address. So I just want to make sure that we're covered on that and we don't have to do something later. Yes, the attendance specifically, and making sure it's covering us for the law that was just recently passed in the last.
We'll certainly review that. Great point, Ryan.
Yeah.
Well, and just so everyone knows who may be listening or watch this at a later date, these are changes to policies based upon changes to the law by the Indiana General Assembly.
Right.
So if anyone thinks that we are coming up with the phone restriction in the classroom, because that's going to be not a hot topic, but I already know, I've heard from some parents, like, what do you mean, what if I have to reach my child during the middle of the day? And I don't relate to that necessarily, but I think if you read the policy, it says in there to allow them to focus, and I think if you were here for the work session where our school corporation nurse was talking about cell phone usage and sleeping and distractions, I mean, I think this is an effort by the General Assembly to help with focus during the day. Ryan, would that be a...
That's a very good thing, and I will just say that Indiana's not alone in doing this. There are several other states that have enacted very similar laws to this to try to get focus in the classroom, and it's all about doing that. So it's very good. The last question related to that, and I think I'd love to have Mr. Sumter's opinion on that, is when we were talking about this at ISBA and talking about that, they specifically said make sure you put an exception in for school-issued devices. Right. I just want to make sure that we're covered because.
Yeah. And we'll continue to look. Our committee got into the weeds of this too, Ryan. I appreciate your attention to this. You do a wonderful job of not only attending those meetings, but bringing back great information. I've also talked to other districts on this as well, on what they're doing. For our community and board's purposes, we are, not only is it legislative act, but it's also Neola approved. And then they give you some options within the Neola thing. We have chosen what we feel is very reasonable within the range of the Neola options they gave us based on the state law. So there is not, we've not put anything extreme based on what our options are. And so, but we will go back, review the questions that came from tonight before your July 22nd meeting, and we'll comment openly about those as well.
Thank you for all the work.
Conversation.
Thank you for all the work that you guys put into that. I know it was kind of short turnaround, and Neola was a little late getting it, but it's great.
Well, Mrs. Gray does a great job and keeps us moving in the right direction in the Neola world as well as many others. So I appreciate all her work.
And if you have questions about these, let's try and email them to the group. If you get questions from parents about this, let's try and share those with the group just so we're all getting the same information and same answers, because I have a feeling you're going to hear from some parents on that.
And again, I'll continue to say, after speaking to some other districts, ours is very moderate, middle of the road in terms of what we're proposing. And I think it fits Huntington perfectly. Yeah, there's going to be questions, but that's what we're here to talk about. But I will tell you, we know cell phones are an issue, but we also know that our school district handles those situations pretty well. Maybe not to everyone's satisfaction, but to a large majority. And so I did not, my advice was to please consider moderation on these as we examine what works.
Yeah. And again, just as a reminder, we're doing this because that's what the state told us to do. So
Yeah, and
this
we've
is
not
not something that we chose to do.
Yeah, could not agree more. Thank you.
All right, hearing nothing else, I'll move on to I-1, items of discussion by board members.
I just would like to say that it was a pleasure going with Ms. Moore down to the ISBA financial seminar that happened a couple weeks ago. I'm surprised nobody else went with me. I love finance so much. Y'all didn't go with me. But it was very eye-opening, and I'll let Ms. Moore even speak. But Dr. DeBoer from Purdue gave some interesting takes on property taxes and how things are going to happen, just to keep an eye on for you all. I know that, and that we also had the heads of the summer committee on taxing as a whole there talking about it. It was a very interesting time. I'm not going to bore you with some of it, but I will tell you a couple of things to start keeping your ears open. The base price for farmland was very talked about because it's going up dramatically because of some of the prices that are being seen in the sale of farm ground and by the prices they received on corn and soybeans by that. Just because I'm a nerd and I understand it, the farm ground is priced based on a 6-year formula, and the lowest dropped out, and then unfortunately when the low dropped out, the last year dropped out, it was low. The new price came in was much higher, so it's going to affect us and it's going to be there for a while. I just happened to also see not much longer after that this was actually brought up when the taxing committee came up and talked about it, and farmers and the Farm Bureau was there talking about it. So I'd anticipate them maybe possibly looking at the formula, but that formula is not going to change very much. I don't know if it's going to change, but the values are going to keep going up and up and up. So that's going to affect farmers coming down the pike. And the way that formula is designed, it's not good looking up for the next couple of years. So it's going up and up and up. The other thing that was brought out about that is, if you haven't heard about the uncalculated funding from Medicare, that basically the state didn't somehow appropriate over $1 billion, that needs to be talked about, because they're going to have to find $1 billion in this next budget cycle that's coming up. So we may not see much growth from what we're doing now. So that may be also something to keep an eye on and figure out what they're going to do. So I would not want to be in the state legislature this coming budget calendar. It's not going to be a fun time. And I don't know that the economic picture that we've seen in the prior couple of budget sessions is going to be as good as it was this summer. Another interesting thing, you wouldn't think about budgets, but it was another great thing, is Dr. McKibben was there talking about demographics. I tell you, every time I hear him talk, it's very interesting. He talked about the state as a whole and the population decline that the state of Indiana is seeing, not only that we're seeing, but also a lot of the state is seeing as a whole, and he does not see that turning anytime soon. I would love to share that presentation with you. I'd love to have him come back and talk to you guys about it because it's very interesting. But just other things coming down the pike. So as you think about what we've got coming up in the future, increased student attendance is probably going to be where we kind of saw that when he gave our conversations, and funding may be fun. So it's going to be fun coming up. So just giving you guys a heads up of what's coming down the pike as we get ready to talk about budgets.
What's an acre of farm ground taxed at right now?
You asked that, and I may actually be able to.
Because I think the number I recall during the referendum was $1,500 an acre.
1,600 somewhere in there.
It's over 2,000 now. And I have that somewhere. I just got to remember where I put it. I can find it, yeah, but it's going up. Because
So
the
substantially less than what it's going for when they sell it.
Yes, so it's not based on, yeah, because that's the other thing, driving factor in that formula, is farm ground is now getting sold at over $10,000 an acre.
Right, because when you sell your house,
It's,
your actual sales price affects the assessed value for tax purposes, but farm ground is taxed at a flat negotiated rate that is
it's a flat
significantly
calculated
lower.
rate based on several factors.
Yes, but it's significantly lower than the actual value of the land.
Yes. Right.
So bad for farmers, it's going up, but it will generate additional tax revenues, my guess? Unless there's changes to the formula or,
It's going to shift who's paying what portion of the tax rate.
Yeah.
So the other minor conversation that happened was, I'm not going to get into, that's just too
Okay.
deep. Yeah, there's too much.
We can
that
talk after.
We can talk after. It's way too much fun.
hearing nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, we